You're listening to Infinite TBR, the podcast where we try not to buy more books. I'm Smack.
And I'm Gabi. Spoiler alert! We're going to avoid major spoilers, and when we can, warn when we're going to discuss a particular book in detail so you can avoid that part of the episode. You can also check the show notes for time-stamped flags identifying potential spoilers.
Welcome back to part 2! Is
it part 2?
Maybe!
Oh yeah.
We've been talking for a long time, and it's possible that future Gabi has now split this into 2 episodes.
So if so, welcome back!
Yep! And we shall now proceed with the rest of our conversation about our recent reads that we may or may not have in common.
I think that's hilarious, though, where I just assumed 2 years ago was 2018. It keeps happening.
Yep.
You'd think I'd get it straight.
It would have helped if it wasn't such an eventful year. So now it's just the new 2020.
Yeah.
So it's just a very convenient touchstone, like 1990.
There's this
Both
illustration
mathematically
going around
and...
that's like 1990 to 2016, which is nostalgia.
Yep.
2016 to 2020 is 2016.
Yep.
And
Sounds right.
2020 to the current is just plague.
Yep.
I look at that sometimes and I think,
That is my
yeah,
brain.
that covers it.
That is how my brain is structured. It's very accurate. So the other one that we both read recently, we got The Rose and the Beast by Francesca Leah Block. Francesca Leah Block, which you were saying was a formative. This is our banned book space on our Mysterious Galaxy bingo sheet.
BANNED.
Yes.
Contraband. Books that have been censored in some way, shape, or form in the US. So that's what I read it for on the Mysterious Galaxy bingo sheet. But, like, I've had my copy for a while. But prior to that, I knew what the cover looked like. I didn't know who it was by. I didn't know what it was called. But I knew that when I was 12 or 13, I'd read this amazing collection of fairy tale retellings. And they're dark. They're gritty.
Yep.
There's a lot of really terrible stuff that happens.
Yep.
And I was 13 and depressed and wanted fairy tales, and it
nailed it.
It nailed it in a way that as I was reading it this year, recently, I was able to pick out turns of phrases, not turns of phrases, but how images were told to the reader in ways that I have seen happen in my own work organically. And I spent so many years thinking about this book and sort of expecting to never get to read it again. Because you couldn't even go online and be like, there's a blonde lady sideways on the cover. And be like, yes, the book is probably 20 years old?
Right.
Like, is it still in print type thing? But, like, I found it at the library resale room in the local library. And at that point, I'd been looking for it for 14 years.
Holy nonsense.
Yeah.
I would have lost my Kit Kat mind.
I was surprisingly calm about it. But, like, finding it settled something in me, honestly. And I think the woman who checked me out, the volunteer, I told her, like, I've been looking for this book for 14 years. And she almost burst into tears, which is, like, really sweet. So I had it, and then there was no real pressure to reread it.
Because
I had it, and, like, sometimes when you reread stuff, that formative, like, it doesn't hold up.
And you don't want to find that out.
And I didn't really need to know, but because bingo is going to be books I already own, I went online and looked for just lists of banned books.
Yep.
And that one happened to be on it. And I thought, oh, good.
Perfect.
And it really is quite a short little thing. It's not a big book to begin with, but then you open it and the margins are like an inch.
Yeah, they're insane.
And the font is like size 16 or something.
It's like double spaced.
Yeah. Like, it's a chapbook masquerading as a paperback. Yeah. And not all of it held up, but a lot of it was just shockingly good.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of Angela Slater's
Yes.
Feast of Sorrows, and if I had read that one without you around,
The Rose and the
independent-
Beast?
yeah,
Okay.
if I read The Rose and the Beast independently now,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been like, smack, this is for you, enjoy, okay, bye.
I don't even know if I had been writing before I read, like, it was that early. I think I might have been writing a little, but, like, that was the beginning of all my love of, like, dark, angsty
Weirdness.
fantasy weirdness, yeah. And, like, it's not just dark, and I'm sure, like, every single story has a very legitimate horrible thing that happens,
Yep.
which is, I'm sure, why it's banned. There's drug use, there's rape of minors, there's
Queer relationships.
murder, yeah. But the one that stands out as rather revolutionary, not revolutionary, progressive,
Mhm.
for being from a book from 2000 is
Right.
that, what is it, like a Sleeping Beauty retelling, I think, where this woman does drugs because she's been abused.
Right.
And she goes to this party where she does a bunch of drugs and then a couple of guys are raping her. And the host of the party, the woman who owns the house, comes in, freaks out, scares all the rapists off with a knife, and takes care of this woman. Zero judgment, will get her the drugs if she needs, but will help, like,
Yeah.
helps her also get off of them. And this woman has no idea why this other woman's being so nice. Like, she has only once before in her life ever met someone that she connected with on a deeper emotional level. And she hasn't seen that other person for so long that, like, she sort of doesn't believe that she exists or ever existed. And then one night she hears her host crying and goes to her and remembers her essentially as the same girl, and they protected each other while they were growing up, and they wanted to be together forever, and then they become girlfriends basically.
Yep.
And being girlfriends doesn't, like, keep the drugs away, but having love and knowing you're deserving of love,
Yes.
of true love, saves her soul essentially. And so, like, in the midst of all this really terrible stuff, there's this very lovely queer romance that saves the day. And that one stood out to me on this current reread because I was looking at it from the perspective of it being a banned book. And
Right.
everything, like, there's drug use and rape in that one, but, like, I'm sure people have also objected to the queer love as a saving grace.
I'm sure. I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
Yes. The other one I really liked was the Red Riding Hood one. That was real dark, where the main character is a teenager. She's running away from home, and she's writing in a
Oh,
diary.
yeah.
Yeah. And her only friend, I guess, is her mother, but her mother's boyfriend has been raping her repeatedly, and she can't bring herself to tell her mother that. And so she runs away in the night and gets on a bus to go see her grandmother. And there's this weird interlude about she is writing in her journal, narrating to the reader, and she's watching this boy across the aisle, like, draw, and she thinks about, like, how they could be kindred souls, but, like, they could never speak, and then be like ships passing in the night on this bus, which is
Right.
essentially what happens. So she goes to her grandmother's house and spills her terrible tale of woe, and then it turns out that the stepfather is outside, basically, has followed her there after killing her mother, and her grandmother turns a shotgun on the guy. And the main character, while the rapist is being, like, very calmly like, oh, you're overwrought, you're being hysterical, she loses her shit, grabs the gun, and shoots him.
Yep.
And then her grandmother takes the fall for it, which the love between these three women, like, one of them didn't make it out. Another one didn't make it out. Will be in prison for the rest of her life. But, like, the love between these three women was just tangible.
Yeah.
And that one really stuck with me. Because it was one of the few with no magic in it.
Yeah.
But it was very clearly Red Riding Hood.
Right. Yeah, I thought one of the more interesting aspects of all the stories is they're all basically nestled in modern
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah. Yeah,
or the
It's like a
surrounding
very-
environment.
very gritty modern LA setting
Yeah.
for all of these. And it's just so good. It did hold up, which I'm really glad about. And like it added an extra level of horror for not being 12 reading it and like understanding all this stuff. But like
Yeah, I can tell you right now, I would not have enjoyed that as a 12-year-old at all.
Oh my
Wouldn't
God.
have appreciated the caliber.
was
Wouldn't have.
catnip.
Nope.
Absolute catnip for me. And like once I figured out who the author was, Francesca Lia Block, it made sense to me because I have very vivid memories of standing in an aisle in Barnes & Noble reading her Weetsy Bat books, which are weird.
Her what now?
Weetsie, I think. Weetsy Bat, like a animal? Yeah.
Okay.
And
Sounds like
it
a
was
different type of
easily
thing.
the weirdest kind of fiction I'd ever read at that point. But it was super enthralling, and it's like this teenage rocker angst type thing with magic
Okay.
and very weird names. Yeah. And so like I don't even remember the stories, but I do remember being like, this is literature. It's so good, and it's not even Animorphs.
That's how you know you've made it.
Yeah, right. So I mean, like, I never owned any of those books by her, but they were they were just formative.
Wow. So has she written anything else that you've since...
I actually own a nonfiction book by her, and it's about healing through fiction writing. I know. And so like I've sort of been saving it. It's one of those ones that I keep on my desk and I look at and I think, I don't know, I just take comfort from the fact that like this woman who wrote all these like very good stories could still have something to offer adult me as well.
Aww,
You know.
that's such a precious journey from start to finish.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Well, tell me what you thought about it, because you read it as well.
I mean,
Obviously, you didn't have this journey that I
I
went
didn't
on.
have the same profound journey of self-discovery and the satisfaction of finding something after 14 years, and then, anyway, no. So, like I said, if I had pulled it out independently, I would have read it. I would have finished it.
Yes.
Because they're very good. Like, this is another, I appreciate the caliber.
Right. Even if it doesn't hit my joy spot.
Yes. And would have immediately thrown it at your head. Because I'd be like, and this is a book for snack.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't remember. I mean, we've talked about the ones that, everything you pointed out are the things that I remember really resonating in my head.
I think while I was reading it, I was doing updates on Goodreads as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then one of...
Oh, yeah. So it's just kind of... I said that the writing was high caliber and tactile. She's one of those authors where it's very much about the taste of the words in your mouth kind of as you're reading it.
Yes.
So it's like stylistically not my usual, but it is like... It's almost like reading poetry.
Yes. To the point where, like, I kept it by my bed and would read one, maybe two per night.
Yeah, it's that kind of...
Like, you gotta
It's the best way
chew
to
on
read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tactile. That's a really good word for it. And I cannot find it on my Goodreads page, but while I was reading it, and I do, like, updates and stuff, this other writer I know, Jillian, commented on one of my updates and was like, this book was formative.
I saw that.
I was like, me too! And it, like, I'm sure we're not the only ones.
Right.
Like, Francesca Lia Block was a BFD.
It's actually interesting that I have no memory of encountering this before, because I would eat up fairy tale retellings like no other.
Mm-hmm.
There is definitely a non-zero chance that 12-year-old Gabi came across it and got to like the first mention of drugs or abuse or something and went, nope, and put it right back on the shelf.
I mean, even the first story It's like a Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs thing.
Yeah, that one was uncomfortable.
That one was uncomfortable, but it was a very good preview of how uncomfortable the rest of the book could get.
Yes.
But it was uncomfortable enough that like I was reading it now and thinking like, how much of this did I pick up on as a 12-year-old? Like, or a 13, whatever, however old I was. But like, because it's this woman gives her baby away and is raised by these supposedly really ugly guys who are all named after animals, and then one day this like artist or someone comes along, this older guy comes along, and he's the first guy that the main character's ever seen, and it turns out to be her mom's boyfriend, her biological mother's boyfriend, and he has like weird interest in her, and she's like 16, 17.
Well, also, he's the one who, like, dropped her off.
Oh, is that how it started?
Yeah, like,
yes.
he takes her from the mom, and then...
But, like, not by force. Like, the mom
Right, the
says,
mom's like,
yeah.
please take her away. And
Yeah.
he's like, okay. And then, like, as she's a baby, he's, like, looking at her like, it would be uncomfortable. Like,
He should not be anywhere near a minor.
Yes.
Ever.
But he's, like, we're, like, in his head, and he's just like, I can't be involved in her growing up because I can see where this is leading, and, like... And
I don't want it to be too weird.
Yeah, and this will make it less weird if I drop her off with
Oh my god.
7 other men.
7 randos.
Who
Who turn out to be really, like,
They're the best.
stalwart fathers.
Yes.
Who don't know what they're doing, but do a good job.
Yeah. And then, like, and then he comes back.
And they're like, well, I guess she's gonna meet a guy eventually?
And may or may not be her father.
Oh.
Yep, anyway.
So that one is deeply uncomfortable
Yep.
on multiple levels,
Mhm.
but like I must have picked up on some of the discomfort. Like I must have, but like how much did Baby Smack know?
We'll have to go ask past Matt.
I know.
What's up? But also the rest of the story is just sweet, like growing up and like learning to kind of break out of
childhood.
Yeah, and family, and anyway. So that was The Rose and the Beast.
Yep.
If you like dark and weird, you should go read it 100%. Yep.
But don't read it all at once.
Yeah, don't read it all at once.
It's too much.
Just nibble and savor your
Yes.
way through it. And then the other overlap we've had recently, we've both recently read Not Your Average Hot Guy by Gwenda Bond. I read the sequel, The Date from Hell.
I haven't gotten to it
and
yet.
haven't yet, so we won't get too much into those. And I think maybe we've talked about it a bit before on the podcast. It's fun popcorn reading.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to. It's great popcorn reading.
Good fun. When next time you want some popcorn, go get some.
Yes. And then Spell on Wheels is 2 different graphic novels about this trio of witches / roommates who have all their witchy stuff stolen from one of their ex-boyfriends. So they go on a road trip to track everything down. Because obviously as he goes, he sells shit off, and so they have to track it down before they can find him. And it's just a great feminist road trip.
Yes, it's a very excellent friendship.
The second one was sort of dark, though.
I'm trying to remember what the second one was.
The second one, there was this 4th witch.
Oh yeah.
Who has this ability
That
to
was
control
kind
people.
of a bummer.
And she starts off, like she's a barista with like a really shitty, creepy boss. And her brother is taking advantage of her and is like living with her rent-free, not looking for a job. Super disrespectful. Just another shitty guy, basically.
Yep.
And so she uses her power on them, rightfully so. But then it starts to go to her head.
Yep.
And so the main characters are trying to track her down before she like really hurts someone. Yeah. And like they get into like their first couple of fights on the road, on this second volume of road tripping, and so like it's not quite as much fun, but it was a lot deeper, and I did enjoy it.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
and that's by Kate Leth, I think, is the author.
Yeah.
Megan Levins is the artist, and then Marissa Louise is the colorist, and then et al. So there are more people involved, but those are the 3 main.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that we've read in common. which is a lot for us. We don't usually read so much.
I
in
know,
common,
it's because
but
it's Mysterious Galaxy.
Bingo brings us together.
Yay!
But
I want to hear what you thought about The Widow of Rose House.
The Widow of Rose House!
Because it's been a long time since I've read it, but I remember really enjoying it, and the author has another book coming out next year. If there's
supposed to be one already out, and I can't find it anywhere.
Oh no. Is that the hotel one?
Yes.
Oh, I thought that wasn't coming out till next
I
year.
think we've had this conversation already where you were like, I thought that wasn't coming out. And I was like, it says that it's out. And we were like, "Mer." And then we weren't sure what we were doing.
That's sort of granted.
So there's Hotel of Secrets is not out yet.
That's what I was talking about.
That one is coming out March 2023. The Bright Star in Paris is out. And I haven't been able to find it. I mean, I'm sure I could order it, but...
What's the release date?
October 2021.
Oh, so it's been out a
So
while.
it's been out, yeah. So The Widow of Rose House by Diana Biller. It's a mystery set in 1800s?
Yeah.
Maybe early 1900s?
Post-Civil War, I believe. But pre-electricity.
Right. Just like advent of electricity. And it's about a widow who had a really crappy husband.
A really shitty husband.
Yes. She's back. She's coming from Paris where he died. Coming to America to kind of rehabilitate her image because she has this reputation as a loose woman.
Yeah.
So she kind of has this very scandalous reputation. She's trying to rehabilitate it. She really wants to break into interior design and just kind of establish herself as an independent person.
Yeah.
Now that she's kind of escaped this...
Someone who can claim the respectability that comes with being a Mrs., but she's a widow.
Yes. And so she gets this haunted house, and it takes for a while for her to admit that it is in fact haunted, because it's like it has a reputation, and she's like, there's no such thing as ghosts or hauntings, and blah, 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 and all the locals are like...
It's your head.
Yeah, your
funeral.
And then there's this scatterbrained scientist, Sam, who's the best in all the world.
He's like genuinely a very gentle guy.
Yes, comes from a very sweet family.
Precisely what this poor woman needs.
Yes. And he's on the forefront of a lot of these, he and his whole family are on the forefront of all these like current scientific discoveries. And he's like an engineer, and his passion project is ghosts and hauntings and stuff. And he's like, I think that like obviously there's superstitions and stuff that feed into this, but he's like, there's no reason to say rule it out or rule out some phenomenon that we just don't have an explanation for yet, because that's what science is learning how to explain the unexplainable. So they meet, and she's like, I'm not doing the romance thing, and he's like, but what if you did the romance thing? And it's just like a puppy throughout. And it's delightful. And he has a best friend named Henry, who's like his no-nonsense business manager accountant. Super long suffering. And their dynamic is hilarious. So good. His family, Sam's family is super great. She's really awesome.
I'm really
just
only
like,
remembering his family now that you're talking about it. The thing that stuck with me from this book was her awful brother-in-law.
Oh my god.
Who was such a dirtbag that like that's what stuck with me.
Yeah, her brother-in-law who's like his twin, I think they're twins.
Yeah.
So he looks exactly like her horrible abusive ex. He comes along and is like, this, and this suggest that you may have been responsible for murdering my brother. And she's like, I didn't,
knowing
though.
full well that she didn't. Right?
He doesn't care one way or the other.
Oh my
He's
God.
like, I didn't like him anyway.
Oh my god.
It doesn't matter to me whether you did or not. The fact is that it looks like you did, and I can point that out to the people who would wreck your career unless you give me money every X. So he's a charmer.
He's a blackmailer.
He's fun.
Extortionist? One of the two.
I'm trying to remember what the difference is.
What's the difference between blackmail and extortion?
Blackmail does not include threats of violence to a person or property.
Interesting. So extortion does include threats of violence to a person or property.
Oh, so extortion's like, I'll beat you up unless you do X, Y, and Z. And blackmail is, I have information and will... Okay, gotcha.
Yep. Blackmail involves one person threatening to release information that is embarrassing or damaging. Blackmail differs from extortion in that there is no direct or implied physical threat.
Like, I'm gonna beat you up smack unless you give me $20 right now. That's extortion. Anywho. Now that we know the difference between blackmail and extortion, for real life purposes. Anyway, that was the Rose House. It was adorable. Next time you just want something that's uncomplicated, fun, and sweet, and wholesome,
very gentle
and
overall, with your reader emotions.
Yes. Go read it. Okay. I really want to find like everything she's written and just.
It's only that one other book though, right?
That's out apparently.
Yeah.
I think there's like a Christmas short or something too.
That makes sense.
A Christmas Spark. Sounds like a Hallmark movie. Yeah, it's like 60 pages.
Oh, so it's like an
A
extra
little novella, yeah. About Winifred, who I think is... Oh, I think it's his parents.
Oh,
Aww.
that's adorable.
So cute. Oh, that looks really cute.
You probably have to join her newsletter or something to get it.
Oh, you think so? No.
It's usually one of those weird things. Or it shows up in an anthology, like...
Yeah, I'll have to look for it. Anyway.
Talk to me about Nightshine.
Nightshine was...
By Tessa Gratton.
By Tessa Gratton was fascinating. Reminded me a lot of Spirited Away.
Yeah, right?
Which you've seen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The same kind of, like, name thing.
Yeah. The reliance on it, your name.
Yeah. And a lot of the interactions with different spirits and things, and, like, the creation of a thing, and I don't know how to talk about it.
Sort of like the genesis of a spirit.
Of
like an individual.
And what a soul. What it means to have a soul.
A spirit / soul, yeah.
Her relationship with her friend was really upsetting for a lot of the book. And I don't remember where it landed.
With the guy who's in love with the prince? Or the prince?
The prince. The one...
That was very upsetting.
Yes.
I was not crazy about how it ended.
I don't remember how it ended, but I remember he was like... The controlling vibe was off the chart. And manipulative. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, like, he gets to go off and have his, like, cute little romance on the side with, what's his face? The bodyguard or...
He was cool.
He was awesome. I like him. I was like, what do you see in this dude?
I know.
This manipulative guy sucks.
In him?
Yeah. What are you two doing? You should go live on the mountain with them. And that was kind of a bummer because, like, the thing is kind of supposed to be, like, friendship and... It's interesting because...
Is it? Because, like, that is not a healthy friendship.
No, not at all. But the way it's framed at the beginning is that she's going on this journey to save her friend.
Right.
And then it turns into developing this friendship with the bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns
sort
into...
of developing a life outside of his friend that she intended to save.
Yeah. And who she pretty much, like, defines herself by.
Yeah.
Because her whole existence is revolved around this guy.
Including, like, he gave her her name, right? Mm-hmm. And so her entire self revolves around him until she leaves the palace to go on a quest to save him, but ends up saving more than just him, frankly.
They're just fascinating. Yeah. That was a very different, fascinating story.
Yeah. It wasn't, like, I think of Tessa Gratton sort of in terms of Maggie Stiefvater, the Raven Boys author.
Interesting.
Because I think they were in, like, a writing group together or something, and so they they released a couple of them and Brenna Jovanoff, I believe her name is. They did short story collections. And so, like, I always think of her in terms of YA urban fantasy, like Raven Boys, angst, star-crossed love type thing. But this was far more Miyazaki than Raven Boys.
Yeah, I would never in a million years have compared it to Raven Boys. Except that they both kind of have, like, the spirit otherworld thing kind of going on. But the way that they interact with the spirit world is very different.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I don't know how I would describe Nightshine to anyone if I were trying to recommend it. I'd be like,
Beauty and the Beast meets Spirited Away.
yeah, it's closest.
But it still doesn't like fully encompass like the richness of this world.
Yeah.
And it's just really good.
Yeah.
Although I will say the one thing
I can't wait till it gets released with a
I know
better
the original the hardcover is so bad. It's so bad. It's like not inspiring even when it would have been in vogue. But it is out of date, it's old fashioned, and it's not pretty.
No.
But it's being re-released now with a really pretty cover.
Just for me.
I know. Just in time for you to get a copy.
Have you read any of her other stuff?
Just the short stories.
Oh, right. Okay. How are they?
It's been 10 years. I don't know. They were fine.
I realized I didn't get any of your recent reads.
I mean, my recent read is
Next.
over here.
I mean,
that
over
I've
the
already
last
talked
few
about.
months, you've read a bunch over the last few months. The only other one I've mentioned, Naomi Teitelbaum Ends the World by Samara Shanker. It comes out in September, I think, and everyone should go get it. Blackfish City by Sam J. Miller. I also went off about for a bit
The previous
in a
episode.
previous episode. Go get it and read it when you're feeling strong.
Do you know, I read that one on a plane back from Orlando.
Yes.
And I'm sure I've told you this, but like reading novels on a plane sends me into the same sort of weird headspace as reading while you're getting a tattoo. And like I only know this because I have
'Cause
one
you've done
large
both
tattoo. And like and it's such a like your brain is buzzing and you're physically uncomfortable.
Yep.
And the only way out of that discomfort is to completely disappear into whatever you're reading.
I think you and I have talked about how, like, you have this superpower to be able to do this, and I do not. And when I'm on a plane, I actually have a really hard time focusing on. So part of it is when I'm on a plane, I'm already, like, halfway to a nap, no matter what. I don't know what it is, but, like, maybe it's the overstimulation of the airport, or the noises, or the recirculated air, but
The
I
vibrations.
can't stay awake and focus on anything. I also cannot fall asleep.
Oh my god.
So I occupy this really uncomfortable in-between space where I'm either half snoozing, but not really, so I'm not resting, and I'm not comfortable. I'm just also not awake enough to be able to do anything else.
I can't write or create anything on a plane. I can move from that same headspace that you end up in into fiction. If I just sort of narrow my focus until that's the only thing that exists, then it sort of mitigates the physical discomfort.
Yeah.
Like I still hate it,
Yes.
but like
Some specific books kind of can get me if I'm reading them when I have the energy to stay on them.
Yeah.
I can stay there as long as I don't stop. One of my favorite go-to airplane reads because of that is Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine.
That would be
was
a
one of my
good one.
go-to
yeah.
on a plane reads. Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder was another one I would kind of
Reliable
default to.
one,
Yeah,
yeah.
things that, like rereads
Yeah.
that I just kind of rely on.
Well,
but
I bring this up because Blackfish City is a weird ass book.
I would not have been able to have the focus
And
to handle Blackfish City on a plane.
It gets weirder when you're in that weird headspace. This is the kind of book where the hardback cover glows in the
Yes!
fucking dark.
I forgot to get excited about that with you and bring it so I can show you. But it
Oh.
glows in the dark. And the only
my
reason
God.
I know that is because I didn't notice for the first how many nights I was reading it. Because, like, how often do you look at the book you're reading in the dark? Because you can't.
It's dark.
I was sleeping under my bed because of my surgery.
Oh yeah.
And
She has a really tall bed. She didn't just
Yeah.
like crawl
No.
under there to die or
You
something.
know, you know how when you're just really over it and you just have to be under your bed for a while? No, I have like a half loft situation and I couldn't climb the ladder up into my bed, so I slept under my bed. And I don't remember how this happened, but like because of the way the elevation changes, because when I'm on top, the book is above me, so I
Right.
can't see it. When I'm below, the book is below me on the floor next to me, and I like turned off the light, I put the book down, went to go turn off the light, and went to settle back down on my side, and I was just staring in that direction, and I was like, wait a second.
What?
That is glowing! What is happening? And then I texted you.
And I asked him about it. I got to corner Sam Miller. I drove him from LA to UCSD. And
Trapped.
basically. And I was like, did you know?
That your own book glows in the dark.
Why is this not more widely known? This should be like on your Twitter header.
Yes.
My book glows in the dark.
There should be a sticker, a removable, easily removable sticker on every copy
And
that
you know
says,
what he
I glow in the
told me?
dark.
He said the book with the whale on it.
Yeah.
I can't remember
The
what it's
other
called.
one.
Yeah.
The one with the other whale on it.
Other whale book. It's a horror book. But apparently, pre-pandemic, the plan was to also print that so that it glowed in the dark.
The blade between.
The blade between.
Yes, good.
And then the pandemic hit and there wasn't money for that kind of extra fancy stuff. So it doesn't glow in the dark.
That's devastating.
I know!
I would buy that even though I'm not. I don't know if I even like that one.
If the whale glowed in the dark.
But if the whale glowed in the
It's a
dark, I
humpback on the
simply,
cover,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Which is tempting enough on its own. Like, I will
know.
probably library it.
I am shocked you do not own it. When we went to
Well, I think I saw it and I was like, another whale on the cover, and you were like, I don't know if you'll like that one. I think.
yes,
I have that impression from somewhere. And I was like, and I figured I'd just library it at some time to like field it, and then before I just go to join my whale cover collection. That consists of like 2 books at this point. But that temptation would be a lot stronger if it glowed in the dark. That's really sad.
I imagine it would be overcoming if it glowed in the dark.
Like, I just go tomorrow.
Yeah.
Go get it. And then my most recent read is If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy, which is a modern Cinderella retelling, which I enjoyed more than I expected to.
Good.
It's a plus-size woman is the Cinderella character, and she's trying to break into the fashion industry, but she's also dealing with kind of, I don't know, not exactly burnout, but writer's block, but with designing shoes.
A creative block.
Creative. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And like she kind of almost crashed and burned her last year of fashion school. Was barely graduated because she kind of put off dealing with the grief of her father dying. And so she's trying to decide where to go next.
Yeah.
Because she's lost this creative spark. She doesn't have any confidence in her job prospects because her last year was so yikes. And she doesn't even know what she really wants to do anymore. And so she finds herself at home to go help take care of her stepfamily's triplets. And she actually has a good relationship with her step. It's not like super warm or anything because they met when she was like, in middle school. And so she's only known them like as she transitioned from preteen to teen and then took off for college. And then her dad died in the middle of that. So a lot of the book is like navigating those relationships.
Interesting.
And then her trying to get through this transition in her life to finally deal with the grief of her father passing. And her stepmother is like the executive producer of basically The Bachelor. And they need like some girls drop out last minute and they need to fill it, and she has Cindy and the 2 stepsisters fill in at the last second. And Cindy's like, well, I might as well do this, and at the very least I'll get exposure and contacts for my fashion career. And I'm not a fan of reality TV. I don't care about The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. I don't care about the fashion industry, and I really don't care about shoes unless they have sharks or whales on them.
Or glow in the dark.
Or glow in the dark.
Or glow in the dark.
So I wasn't really anticipating being super into it. I actually only grabbed it because I have By the Book by someone else.
That one sounds familiar.
Well, that was a really ineffective Goodreads search. The literal name of the book is By the Book, and I'm getting the book of everything else. And not, if only I can remember. It's Beauty and the Beast. they're all like modern fairy tale retelling. So it's like in a series, like it's being released as part of a series.
By the same author?
No.
Okay.
Jasmine Guillory.
Oh, I know that name. Don't know why I know that name.
Julie Murphy, I think, wrote Dumplings.
Yes.
Which I didn't realize until like halfway through.
Have you read that one?
No.
No, I haven't either.
What did I just say? Jasmine.
Guillory.
She also wrote The Wedding Date.
Oh, yeah.
So that's supposed to be Beauty and the Beast, so which is one of my favorite fairy tale retellings. So I like insta-bought that because it was on one of Barnes & Noble's BOGO 50% walls. But it's like part of this quote-unquote series of fairy tale retellings.
Right.
And I was just going to skip the Cinderella one because fashion, The Bachelor, and whatever. But I was picking up library books, and it was right there on the shelf while I was checking out my library books, and I was like, well, I might as well. It's probably fun popcorn. And it did end up being more fun popcorn. Like, my mom is the same in terms of, like, what she enjoys in a fairy tale retelling or whatever. And she read it first.
So she'd already, like, cleared it?
Yes.
Okay.
And she kind of said, she was like, I don't really care about fashion, I don't really care about, and Cinderella's has never been one of my favorites, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, my expectations are even lower. So I went in with lower expectations, but I actually really enjoyed the way everything was really well balanced, and the way the characters interacted wasn't too stupid or too angsty, and it was more believable and relatable than I expected it to be.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you know, I have found that reading contemporary romances stresses me out so much more than any other kind of like interpersonal relationships.
Fascinating.
It stresses me out so much. And so these books that I genuinely enjoy, like I just finished Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter, and it was delightful and hilarious, and it ended well, and everything was fine, but oh my god, I got so stressed. I got almost halfway through the book, had to put it down for whatever reason, and got too stressed thinking about what was going to happen to go back to it for months.
Oh no.
And so then I had to start over, and I was like, okay, just gonna read it all the way through as fast as possible, which isn't like the best way to enjoy a book, and I did enjoy it, but I still got so stressed out. So just anxiety.
Was it a lot of like, was it because like all the tension was between them and because of that romantic relationship and there wasn't anything else really going on, or was everything just stressful?
I think because probably because that was like the primary tension, conflict. I don't know. I think part of it is just like it's the real world.
Like
that's more than my brain can handle.
You don't get to ride a dragon. What's the point?
What is the point? It was good though. Do recommend it.
Okay. But that's when you have the ebook for, right?
Yes.
Which doesn't do me any good.
I'm sure it's at the library.
I mean, yeah, but then I have to like go through the thing and do the thing, and
you
I have
can't
a big
prioritize
snack
it on your snack shelf.
Yeah.
God, life is hard.
I know. Any other recent reads since you and I last talked? I just blabbed a whole ton about mine.
I mean,
You brought up a couple.
I talked about the ones that I Light from Uncommon Worlds.
Stars.
Stars.
That you're in the middle of right now.
Yes. We talked about that.
Right this second.
We talked about recognized fashion.
We talked about the ones we
talked
had in
about-
common.
Which, like, are most of the ones I've read recently.
That
And
all your urban fantasies.
Right. So, like, we sort of covered it by me
Right.
being like, urban fantasy! Which, and The Rose and the Beast, Recognized Fascism, Spell on Wheels, couple of nonfiction how to independently publish books.
Oh, how's Among Thieves?
Among Thieves by M.J. Kuhn was a huge disappointment.
Oh no.
But not because the heist wasn't good.
Okay.
I just didn't care for the prose.
Oh.
Unfortunate. Yeah, I think there was enough attention to detail paid on the plot that worked really well, and I really enjoyed how, because it's basically heists, found family, and betrayals. Like those are the three things.
In what order?
In all of the orders. And I think if I kept going, I would enjoy.
Oh, did you DNF it?
No.
Is
I
it a
almost
series?
did. it's going to be. And it ends as very clearly like the first of at least 2, probably more.
So cliffhanger? Or just kind of not
super
settled?
resolved.
Okay.
But not a cliffhanger either.
Okay.
Like, less of a cliffhanger than I would have called the end of Six of Crows. Which I'm sure is inevitably what this poor book gets compared to all the time.
Oh, really?
Because it's heists
Oh.
in a gritty secondary fantasy world.
Right. I could see trying to read any secondary world heist right now after Six Crows.
Right. I wouldn't read it right after Six of Crows, but it's been a year since year and a half or whatever. And so, like, it's different enough that I didn't have that comparison in my head at all. I just didn't really care for the writing itself.
Right.
The story was good. The characters were a lot of fun.
Yay.
And I could see sort of where things were going, but not super clearly. So it wasn't, super derivative or contrived or predictable even. But, like, the writing itself, like, I'm sure she'll get better at it. But until then, I'm good.
Bummer.
And I think part of it didn't really tick any of my boxes.
Right.
Like, it's gritty and dark, and there were a lot of different countries and cultures mentioned, and I couldn't keep...
But it's not like heist is one of your big, like, oh, I'll pick this up, because it's a heist immediately.
I mean, heists are fun, but
they're
it's not
fun.
something I go out of my way to find. And the sort of skeleton of a found family, because there were betrayals, and it's the beginning, I know. The betrayals I actually, like, really enjoyed. I thought those were interesting. Except for one of them. One character had this, like, very obvious plot twist showing up at some point, and it didn't show up till the very end, and I was like, were we not supposed to see that coming?
Were we not? Did we not know that? I thought we knew that.
So, aside from that particular one, like, it was well plotted and well executed. I just,
Was that a hard one? Hard copy?
No, that was an ebook. You're welcome.
Thank you. You're the best.
And so, I mean, that's most of my recent reads. Urban fantasy, some nonfiction, Mr. Wrong Number, Scales and Sensibility. Did I talk to you about that one?
Only that I would love it, and then you said it was an ebook, and I said, well, I'll love it one day.
One day. Yes, you would really like it. It is super gentle, and it's basically sort of a Regency era world where the main character is the poor relation.
Who's this by?
Stephanie Burgess, who has written stuff like Snowspelled, or she's got a middle grade book called The Dragon with a Chocolate Heart.
That's on my TV.
Adorable.
Big shot.
Everything she writes is just delightful.
Yay!
And this one, so like the main character is like the poor relation, quote unquote, who has to rely on extended family for somewhere to live, food to eat type thing. And at the beginning, the poor relation sort of gets like really fed up with her stupid cousin and kidnaps her like cat-sized dragon.
Oh my god, yes.
Because her cousin's mistreating it.
Yes.
And it's scared to death of her cousin, and it poops on her cousin, and then her cousin abuses it more. You know, so they run off.
Sensible.
And
scaly.
Then there's a mishap on the road, and she loses all like 5 shillings that she saved over the last 6 months or whatever, and gets put up in an inn. And dragons aren't supposed to have magic, right? So like they're sort of cat-sized. They're the latest like accessory for highborn ladies looking for a husband or whatever.
I want 10.
I know you do.
Friends for Marina.
Yes, basically. Marina would dominate all of them. But like they sit on your shoulder, they match your attire, that kind of thing. They're well behaved, they're cute, but they don't have magic. And so this one night where this girl is broke, her parents are dead, she doesn't know how to get to either of her other sisters because no one in their family would take all 3 of them, so they got split up. And now she's got no money, and she stole her cousin's dragon, which, like, it's a theft.
Oops.
So, like, they could come after her for that. And so she's, like, sobbing into her pillow, being like, why can't I be as, like, majestic as this one woman who is a widow and has all this money and can be a trendsetter and reject people she doesn't like? I just wish I looked like her and could pull everything off. And then the dragon does magic, and she physically
resembles and sounds like this woman that she was like sobbing about. And then the next morning, the uncle has come after her for the dragon and opens the door and it's like, oh my god, Mrs. So-and-so, I didn't know you were in town. I'm so sorry. You have to come stay with us. And she pulls off this ridiculous, ridiculous charade with increasingly poorly.
But like, who's gonna go out here and guess? Oh,
Yeah,
I know what's going on.
Which is basically how she gets away with it for so long. Magic, nobody believes in magic. And no one would ever assume that this, like, super fashionable woman is this, like, random orphan child they were taking care of.
So has nothing to do with Sense and Sensibility, it sounds like.
Not at all. It's a punny title.
I kept waiting for, like, some plot point nearing thing, and I was like, I don't remember any of this from Sense and Sensibility.
Nope. It is
incredible.
Yes. And she's gonna do, like, at least a couple more.
Right.
They're all gonna be, like, puns and
Yes, good.
dragons and Regency novels.
Good.
Yeah. So, and it was super sweet, and I didn't get stressed out once.
Sounds perfect.
It was great.
Absolutely flawless.
Yeah, that's basically.
No notes. Okay.
So that's my recent reads.
That's a great spot to end, I think.
Yeah.
Happiness.
Yeah.
Here's hoping you find a cat-sized dragon to adopt. Who can...
With or without magic.
Yeah, I'd take it either way.
There you go.
This has been another episode of Infinite TBR. You can find us on our Twitter at Infinite TBR.
And we are individually on Twitter as @WhatSmackSaid and @Gabalodon, which is like Megalodon but Gab in the front of it. And you can find all our show notes at infinitetbr.com. If you have book recommendations for us or questions you want answered during the podcast, feel free to email us at itbrshelf@gmail.com.